Hello guys, can you hear me?
I guess you're in, Paul.
Hi, I'm so sorry for the delay. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
No problem at all. No problem at all. But we are happy to have you in the room, Paul. So was a little bit of a rough start, but I guess we're now where we are. I already did my introduction to the participants of this live webinar. So thank you for all joining, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
There's really no problem. But as I said before, I'm happy and delighted to have Paul in the room from ParticularAudience to showcase as the first innovative publisher of the month for the Nordics. As I said before, I'm the Global Strategic Partnership Manager, and I'm working closely with Paul together to reach all objectives for every retailer that we have in the Awin space. And I'm giving the word to Paul as well to start the presentation and let them showcase what you can do with ParticularAudience.
Great. Well, Yeli, thank you for the introduction, and super excited to show you how we're improving the personalization for many retailers across Awin and clients around the world. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share my screen, if that's okay. Yeli, can you confirm, can you see my screen?
I can see your screen. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I'll get started. So welcome to this presentation. ParticularAudience is the AI layer on top of an e-commerce website. And our goal is to create a different website for every customer. Now, what does that mean? That means providing personalization for each and every customer that lands on the website. And what I'm going to do is take you through how we approach the topic of personalization, different to vendors in the space. So first of all, we want to start off by showing, by talking about what our clients are trying to achieve. And there's 6 main points that they're trying to achieve. Now, the first is to improve the discoverability of items in the long tail. Now, what do I mean by the long tail? The long tail is, so traditionally, retailers have the majority of their sales from their best sellers and most popular products. And the rest of the items that are in the product catalog fall into what we call the long tail. So they might be overstocked or slow moving. And so our goal is to improve the discoverability of those items. Second of all, our goal is to increase average order value, whether that's the units per transaction or just the value of the items in each and every basket. Then third, we look at driving site-wide conversion rate through the improvement of recommendations. We also look at reducing the number of items that are going into markdown each season. So reducing the amount of items that are discounted or in the sale section. We want to save as much margin as we can for our retailers. Fifth, we want to improve the UX and UI through better recommendations. And sixth, we're trying to influence all of the key metrics, whether that be increasing the session time, average order value, conversion rate, and so on. Now, when it comes to defining personalization, it's a bit of a buzzword in the industry, and loads of vendors will have different definitions for personalization. But for us, it is the ability to adapt each and every product list for every customer. So that might be providing bundles on your product display page, or it might be re-ranking your homepage based on how items are being interacted with each other on site. Or it might be recommending complementary products on your basket page to increase AOVs. It's the ability to adapt the product list across the full sales funnel, from homepage to cart page. And so you have your commerce platform, and we are the AI layer on top. So our goal is to facilitate your business goals with our management tools. And most importantly in this discussion is to improve your customer's experience through personalization. Now, item-oriented ML. So when traditionally tech vendors in the space would recommend products based on customer cohorts and customer segmentation data. So let's say, take me as an example. I'm Paul and I'm in my mid-20s and I'm from London. And so I'd be recommended products based on that data set. But for us, that doesn't really mean much. it isn't an accurate idea of what I'm going to buy when I'm on site. If I'm on Nelly or I'm on Habitat or I'm on any brand, it doesn't really mean much. But what we do have on site is 100% of your item data. We have every add to basket, we have every click, and we have every purchase. And so for us, it's a more robust data set to predict what your customers are most likely to buy based on the relationship between items. So instead of focusing on the customer, we focus on the items. Because at the end of the day, for us, you are what you shop. As a retailer, we're interested in what your customers are interacting with, not who the customer actually is. And we have 100% of that picture. And then we go one step further. So let's say we were on ASOS and we had, in the left-hand side, this was 50,000 page views for a t-shirt. And on the right-hand side, this was 100,000 page views for a jumper. What we're trying to do here is we're trying to quantify the overlap between these items. How similar are these items to each other? And what behavioral data do we have surrounding these items? And what we do is we assign a score between 0 and 1 in terms of the relationship between these items. And what this allows us to do is calculate the most relevant item for each and every customer journey. If I'm looking at a brown t-shirt with rips or cuts, what is the most relevant item? And what item am I most likely to interact with? And this leads really nicely onto our core technology. So our core technology is called collaborative filtering. Now, collaborative filtering is the same technology that Amazon and Spotify have used to have the gold standard recommendations in their verticals. When you think of Spotify, they are the leaders when it comes to music streaming. And Spotify Discover is so powerful in terms of finding the most relevant song to your taste. And so if we focus on the left-hand side matrix here, this represents a small version of your website. So for instance, if this was JD, this would be millions of unique visitors, and this would be maybe thousands of items on the y-axis. But in this 3x3 matrix, in this example, you can see that customer A interacts with item 1, customer B interacts with item 2, and customer C interacts with item 1 and 3. Now, if we were to predict what customer A is most likely to purchase, we would recommend them item 3, given that they're most similar to customer C and most dissimilar from customer B. I hope that makes sense. And so what we're looking at there is the customer to item interaction. But the key thing is that what we discussed earlier in the presentation is that if we introduce customer data, it introduces bias, it introduces inaccurate data into the data set. And so for us, what we do is we look at the relationship between items instead. So if we focus on the right-hand side matrix, you can see that customer A, B, and C has been replaced by item 1, 2, and 3. And what we've done is we've attached a score to the relationship between these items. So item 1 and 1 are given a score of 1 because they're 100% similar to each other. And the same for item 2 and 2 and item 3 and 3. Now item 2 and 1 are given a score of 0 because they had 0% of overlap in the initial matrix. And item 3 and 1 are given a score of 0.5 as they had 50% of overlap in the initial matrix. And so you can imagine with thousands of items interacting with each other on site, these numbers are very, very small. And the key thing to note is that these numbers are updated in real time. So we're constantly changing the relationship scores between items. And this is all done through machine learning and AI. So this isn't a manual service. Now, collaborative filtering is super powerful when you have items that are on site that are always interacting with each other. So for your best sellers and your most popular items. But what happens for, let's say, a retailer like Nelly, if they have thousands of items that are in the long tail that might not have as much interaction or data as other items on site? These items become slow moving and overstocked. So what we can do is we have two technologies to solve this issue. Now, our first technology is called computer vision. And what computer vision does is it calculates the visual similarity between two items. So in this example, you can see that we have a dress here. And what we've done is we've looked at the color, the cut, the shape, all of the physical attributes around this dress. And what we've done is we've calculated the visual similarity between this dress and other dresses on site. And the key thing to note here is that this doesn't require any behavioral data. So if a fashion retailer or a furniture retailer was uploading new items onto the website, instead of having to manually boost these items on site, we can use the computer vision to populate relevant journeys. And so it's super powerful to solve what we call the cold start problem. And the cold start problem is where new items on site don't have that interactional data to appear in our collaborative filtering tables or the behavioral data set. Now, if you can't look at an item in terms of physical attributes, then what you can do is look at is descriptive elements. So we have a technology called natural language processing. And what this does is it looks at the product feed, or it looks at the product specification on each and every product, and it calculates the descriptive similarity between two items. So in this example here, you can see we have the movie It, and you can see here that we've extracted the relevant words: DVD, evil clown, terrorize, and disappearing. And what we've done is we've calculated the descriptive similarity between these keywords and other items on site. So super powerful in your electronics vertical, also in furniture and also in fashion, where sometimes maybe the imagery isn't powerful enough. We can use the NLP as a fallback tactic to ensure that we're calculating the similarity between items. So those are our three core technologies that underpin our personalization engine and help us to optimize search, recommendations, and also merchandising. And here's an example of these technologies working together. So here, if you notice here, you can see the dotted black line is sales as a result of collaborative filtering. And notice here that there is a dip in the sales around this point. And this is because the furniture retailer in question, which was Habitat in this example, that they had a dip in sales because of the new items that they were uploading onto the website. And these new items didn't have that behavioral data around them. But notice here that if we look at the dotted blue line, you can see here that there is an increase in the sales. And that is because these new items on site were being populated in relevant customer journeys by our computer vision technology. So we were looking at how visually similar these new items are to the items that are already on site. And notice here that the computer vision cells actually overtake the collaborative filtering cells. And then once these new items on site have got the behavioral data, what you can see is that the collaborative filtering cells then return back to their usual position. And then the computer vision cells return back to their usual position of 11% of attributed cells. So what this graph shows is how we solve the cold start problem and how each and every item at all stages of their journey on site are recommended in relevant customer journeys. Because that is the key for any retailer, to put the right items in front of their customers. And this is something that tech vendors at the moment aren't able to offer. They can offer the behavioral data sets, but using the NLP and the computer vision is something that is unique to us on the market. And so here are some of the customers that benefit from our technology. So you can see here that we have a real big presence in the fashion vertical. We're working with Tommy Hilfiger and Calvin Klein to provide them product recommendations. Also Printemps, one of France's leading department stores. Norse Project's also a leading Danish retailer in the fashion vertical. We also have quite a big stronghold in furniture as well because of our visual capabilities. So Habitat, Belliani and Ambiente Direct, also the Connox Group, and also Ali Fashion, who I'll show you a live demo of our technology with as well. And so here what I wanted to show you was our recommendations on Habitat, a leading furniture brand in the UK. So I'll just expand. So here we're clicking through a product called the Parker table. And notice here we're looking at the visual attributes of this item. And what you can see here is that we have often bought with and similar items. So often bought with is the ability to increase average order value by recommending complementary products. And similar items is looking at the similar items on site that we can recommend. So we've clicked Jerry table. And again here, what we can do is we can add it to the bag. And notice here that within this add to basket function, we can recommend similar items as well, or complementary items, all at the click of one button. So super, super powerful in the furniture vertical. And then again here, we've recommended often bought with and similar items.
So Paul, is that also to bundle products with each other and also to make a collection as a whole? So I believe if someone going to a website,
yeah,
I don't believe that they go and buy one product. I think that's the case. So if I'm going on a fashion website, for example, Tommy Hilfiger, I want to buy pants and I want to buy trousers. Is that also something that you can do with this technology?
Yes, so we can bundle items. We have a technology called niche indexing, which allows us to do that. But for us, it all depends on what the retailer is trying to achieve. So if they're trying to increase their average order value, we'll focus on recommending complementary products. So items that are bought alongside the item that the customer is looking at. But we can also go one step further and provide bundling and also complete the look widgets as well to increase the average order value for customers.
Nice one, really powerful, I guess.
Yeah. And so here again, we can look at Tommy Hilfiger recommendations. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a live example of this, just so you can see it in real time. So I think that'll be more powerful. So if I scroll down to the bottom of the page, as we said initially, personalization for us is across the full sales funnel. So you can see here on the home page, I have a panel called Recommended for You. Now, if a customer was to land on this page for the first time, they would be met with bestsellers, so your most popular items on site. But once that customer starts to interact with items on site and starts to create a customer clicktail, what we can do is we can start to re-rank these recommendations on site. So they'll see the most relevant items to their customer journey. And what I'll do is I'm going to click through this recommendation. And what you can see here is that if I scroll down, you can see the often bought together. So you can see items that have been bought alongside the PDP that we're on. And then also the you may also like. So the you may also like is based on the visual similarity between items. So how visually similar is the t-shirt, the shirt that we're looking at to the shirts here. So super powerful in the fashion vertical and also the furniture vertical. And what I'm going to do here is just go on to see similar. So see similar is the ability to view similar items within product lists. So I'm just again going to show you a live demo of this. I'm just going to type this in. We're going to go on to Ali Fashion. And this is one of Australia's leading fast fashion brands, very, very similar to your ASOS or your Nelly or other big brands in that vertical. And I'm going to type in maxi dress. And notice here that I've searched for maxi dress and we're able to filter by price, by category, by brand, and by color. So our search functionalities are super powerful and super relevant. Customers can filter through depending on what they're most sensitive to, whether it's price, whether it's category, or the brand, or the color. But notice here that in the top right-hand corner, we have a button there. And this button is what we call See Similar. And if I click that button here, it allows us to see similar items within the same product list. But notice what it's done is it's pushed the previous recommendations down. So rather than getting rid of them, or rather than in making me go onto the PDP, which can increase the bounce rate if I'm not happy with the item that I look at. This is allowing me to filter through similar items within a list of products. So again, here, you can see here that we've been recommended items that are similar in terms of the design, the cuts, and the prints as well on site. And once again, finally here, we can be recommended similar products. So super powerful if one of your goals is to increase session time and to increase the discoverability of similar items on site. And it's quite a powerful tool in terms of complementing what existing technology you have on site, whether it's in the fashion or furniture vertical. And so here is a complete list of some of the other possible applications to drive performance. So we've spoken about recommendations. We can also do merchandising as well. So on product category pages, we can re-rank the recommendations that each and every customer sees based on what we call the wisdom of the crowd, based on how items are being interacted with each other on site. We can also look at search. So what I showed you there was our ability to re-rank search queries based on similar items. As Yeli pointed out, we can also look at bundling items if that was of interest to you guys as well, and also complete the look. For instance, if you're on a high-end fashion retailer and you have a jumper and you want to recommend a complimentary watch or a complimentary pair of jeans and shoes, we can also provide that for a retailer. Exit intent recommendations. So if a customer was about to bounce from the page, we can provide a pop-up which recommends either most popular items or also the most relevant items to the journey that they were on in their customer journey on site. The key thing with Particular Audience is that we have many functionalities available depending on where your interests lie as a retailer. And finally, boost and bury. So what we can look at is essentially if you had an item that was overstocked or slow moving, or you had a higher margin on, what we can do is add a weighting to the score that the item has in terms of a relationship between two items. And what this will do is it will boost the item in relevant customer journeys. So that item has a higher chance of appearing in relevant journeys to customers. Now, I wanted to go on to our reporting. So what we do is we A/B test all of the implementations on site, and that's to prove and to show the value that we're bringing to our clients. So we report back on your bottom line metrics and your engagement metrics. So that would be average order uplift, conversion rate visitor uplift, average session time uplift, and so on. The key thing to note is that we report on uplift because we keep a control cohort of usually 5 to 10% that don't see our recommendations. And that allows us to show the incremental value we're bringing to our clients. And what would happen as a retailer, you would have access to this dashboard to see the value that we're bringing week on week, month on month. And so this is just an example of some of the analysis we've done for some of our retailers and reading deeper into the A/B tests. And what we're looking at here is the Longtail Analysis. So the retailer in question here, Life Pharmacy, they had the issue where 16.8% of their items on site was accounting for 80% of their sales volume. So they were really, really reliant on their best sellers and most popular items on site. But following the implementation of our recommendations on site, we saw that number rise to 33.6%. So less reliance on the best sellers and the most popular items. That was a 100% increase in the SKUs that account for 80% of their sales volume. And in terms of raw figures, that led to a 14% increase in total revenue, a 53% increase in session time, and a 27% increase in order values. So really powerful data for the retailer in question. And now we wanted to go onto the integration. So one thing to note is that Particular Audience is a fully managed service. So we would take the client through the integration and the optimization of our tool. The key thing to note is with our partnership with Awin, we deal with the whole integration process. So if you guys were to sign on with us, you wouldn't have to do anything on your end at all. Super, super easy. We can integrate through the master tag, or if the master tag isn't available, we can integrate through the e-commerce store backend. But that is all done on our end. So very, very low touch point experience. And then finally, we wanted to look at terms. So we have two models of working. Our first is the hybrid model. So given the fact that we're working with Awin, we've been able to offer our service on a CPA basis. One thing to note, which separates us from other vendors as well, is that we would use soft click cookies. So that's really powerful to ensure that every item that we're driving is as a result of particular audiences' recommendations. We aren't taking a clip of some of the work that you guys have done or other publishers have done on site. Also, the one bit of information is that there is a minimum spend of 500 euros commission per month, which we haven't faced as an issue so far, as most of our retailers are billing well in excess of that because of the value that we're driving for them. And the contract is signed for a minimum of 6 months to give us time to optimize and for you guys to truly see the real value in our solution. And the products included on the hybrid model would be the collaborative filtering recommendations, the exit intent recommendations, and also the bundling that Yeli mentioned earlier in the presentation. And then we also have a fixed fee model. We appreciate that some of our clients prefer using that model as a way of capping their spend. If you have loads of traffic and loads of interactional data, then the CPA model might get out of hand. And so what we can do is cap that spend. And so you pay a fixed price monthly, depending on the technologies used. And what we do is that post this webinar, we would set up a one-on-one call between ourselves, the retailer, and also Yele or the account manager. And we talk to you about the sorts of value we could bring to the business. And the key thing to note here is that you'd have access to any product that you'd want, including the personalized search and the merchandising terminal. And also you'd have access to custom reporting, and it would act as a cap on your spend. So you would never pay more than the fixed agreement. And that is the end of our presentation. And just in terms of getting in touch, that is our Awin ID 510399. That is my phone number, and also feel free to email me and ask any questions that you may have.
Nice one. Thanks, Paul, for this great presentation and showcase of all the great solutions that you're bringing to the table for our existing retailers in the Nordics, I guess. I think you showcase a really cool bundle of things you can do for them. Just to start off with the FAQ, maybe that's a good one. In FAQ, you can ask your questions immediately, so we will handle them as well. But first, like you talked about visual AI, collaborative filtering, natural language filtering, and that kind of, I think, is a lot to handle on your website.
Of course.
So, will particular audience and all the solutions that you're having impact the loading time of the page? I think that's a very important thing to.
For sure, really, really good question. The short answer is no. So we load asynchronous to the website, and so we sit on top of the website and never impact load time. So that's something that also is really powerful for some of the retailers. Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger have really seen the benefit of a vendor that doesn't impact their load time, especially with loads of traffic coming on site. It's really important that we don't add to that issue.
Okay, so you are more layered to the page. So first the page loads, and then the layer of particular audience come on top.
Of course.
So would
exactly.
not affect any loading time. Okay, so yes. I've got a question from someone from the audience. Like we already have similar features on our website.
Yep.
What would the benefits be of adding particular audience to our site or replacing our tag?
For us, first of all, it depends on the features you have on site. But the initial thing I can say is that the way particular audience approaches personalization is that not only do we take returning customers into the equation, we also take new customers into the equation as well. Because when a new customer lands on the website, we don't have any information about them on the page. But because of the way that we look at the relationship between items, Once they interact with that first item, we know what sort of customer journey that they're on. I think maybe a good way of looking at it would be an example. If we were recommending products based on the customer cohort type of way, that might be good enough for me. But as soon as I'm on site and I'm buying for you, Yeli, those recommendations will fall apart because me and you are two different people. And so the recommendations won't be able to take into account your tastes and what you like on site. Whereas if we're looking at the relationship between items, as soon as I land on site and I start interacting with items that are similar to your taste, Yeli, I know what sort of customer journey that I'm on. So that is what has really benefited us as a vendor.
Okay, nice one. And do you also do A/B testing? So hey, maybe in line with this question as well. Yeah. So the benefits are adding, or do you A/B test? Say for 50% of the traffic, we can load particular audience for 50% the other features as well to see the incrementality.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's something that we'd always suggest with our clients. If you're potentially unsure, why don't we just do a split test? We're always very, very happy to test against your existing tools. We're all in the amazing world of e-commerce where we can test the value that we're bringing to a business. And so why don't we just do an A/B test and see the value we're bringing against your existing solutions, for sure.
Right. And also maybe in line with that question, also from someone, from an attendee as well, how would you determine incremental value?
How would we determine incremental value?
Yes.
So it'd be based on, we would look at the control cohort and look at how we're influencing the percentage of traffic that we're seeing. So if we only had 50% of traffic, what is the increase in spend? What is the increase in conversion rate, AOVs? How are we influencing those metrics as opposed to the percentage of traffic that doesn't see our recommendations? That's how we would improve, that's how we'd show the incremental value.
All right. That's I think it's a clear answer. And also another one, will the data from our website be used to train the AI that is used on other sites? Our concern is having our data being used to help competitors.
No. That is a very good question. And that's also another strong point of ours. We focus, because we're not focused on customer profiles and cohorts, we're only looking at the interactional data on that specific website. So if you compared, let's say, Calvin Klein and Tommy Hilfiger, our recommendations are specific to Calvin Klein and our recommendations are specific to Tommy Hilfiger because the item-to-item relationship on Calvin Klein is different to what it is on Tommy Hilfiger. So we would never use, there is no sharing of data. First of all, we don't track any PII, which is personal identifiable information. So there wouldn't be any transferring of competitor knowledge from one website to another website. So there wouldn't be, that's nothing to worry in that end.
All right. I hope that answers the question as well. And maybe we have time for 2 more questions. So one question from the audience. What function is the most used one from your customers today? Which functionality that you're...
We would say our recommendations using NLP or computer vision. I think our strong point is really the furniture and fashion vertical. So our head of account management, who would take you through the process of optimizing and integrating particular audience, was head of e-commerce at IKEA in the UK and Ireland. So we have a lot of expertise in that vertical. So we've seen real benefit from our recommendations for sure. And it's used by all of our clients that are at particular audience.
All right, nice one. And then maybe just one more. I said, how difficult is the integration? How much time will it get? So maybe it's great for me to answer it from an Awin perspective as well.
Yeah,
so as Awin, we work with the container tag, so the master tag, like Paul was mentioning. If you have integrated the master tag, good, and in every space, I have all the data for you as well. So if you have a question about this master tag, you can send me an email or ask your team. We do the integration for you. So our tech team partners as ParticularAudience are integrated in our container tag already. So what we do, we as a tech team flip the switch. That's basically how it is. We load the tag into your tag, and then
Yeah.
basically it works. So the only thing that you have to come up with is designs, right? I guess. So
And that's it. And what we would do is we have a design team. They would usually use the native designs on the website. We would show you how particular audience would look with those native designs. You guys would give us a sign off or come back to us and say you want to add this or remove that, and then we would go live. So it's super low touch point from the retailer's point of view. The one thing to note is just that we would need, because we're obviously a tech vendor, we would just need an agreement that is stating that we're working alongside Awin and the retailer, and also that we're GDPR compliant. So that would be the only thing that we would need on your end. But once that happens, again, as Yeli said, it's literally a flick of the switch. And the integration process from our point of view would take 6 to 8 weeks, but you guys would, the retailer wouldn't be doing anything on your end. The 6 to 8 week period is just so that we learn how items are interacting with each other on site. That's what that time is for, but that you guys wouldn't be involved in that at all.